Welcome to Confessions of a Small Biz Mama, episode 18. 3 tips for helping your kids become avid readers. Okay, it's funny because we're always looking, I think as small business owners, we're looking for like those quick fix things that are going to make a humongous difference in our businesses and our trajectory. This is one of those things for your kids. Reading. Okay. How do you get your kids to become avid readers? Okay, so in case you don't know, I'm a college professor. I love education and research. I have a 2.5-year-old. And when we found out we were pregnant, my research brain went into overload, right? And I'm like, okay, what can I do to make sure that my kid gets all the things that my kid needs to have, right? You get that, right? And so for me, like the thing that I just kept hitting on over and over and over again is read to your kids. You've got to do that. Incredibly important. Because if you want your kids to be readers, right, and I think we all do, right, we're finding out that screen time is really bad for our kids, that, being a reader makes you a better business owner, a better employee, a better person. It gives you perspective. I think a lot of the issues that we have, right now is that people don't have perspective on history. And it's really interesting because some of the studies that I've read actually equate the decrease in empathy with the decrease in reading that we're doing. Because as we do more reading, and you investigate other characters and you hear other stories, you become much more empathetic to other people. And I bet you those of you that are listening that are really empathetic, you're probably ferocious readers. And so, or you have been at some time in your life. And that's one thing that kind of makes me a little bit sad, is that I don't read nearly as much as I did as a kid, even as a teenager. I read a lot. In my 20s, and then like life just gets so crazy, so now that I'm in, I just turned 40, I'm trying to read a lot more, and I'm trying to kind of balance between fiction and nonfiction, but I'm doing a lot more nonfiction because I just find I have a really hard time finding fiction books that I like. So, but I gotta do more digging. I really like historical fiction. And so, trying to find that, but it's really interesting. Like some of my biggest like aha moments, were reading books like The Jungle, in high school, reading, Great Expectations, reading The Catcher in the Rye. And I think that the more exposure we have to characters who are not like us, the more exposure we have to history and the stories of history, they give us the perspective. Textbooks are not typically well written, and I say this as a college professor, because they don't typically tell things as stories, and as humans, that's what we need, right? We need that. So, all right, I know I'm kind of getting off topic, but I think that this is critically important. And as I was going through the research just over and over and over again, talking about focus, talking about language acquisition, talking about just success in school in general. Okay, so I know I'm getting a little bit off topic here, but I just want you to understand the impact that fostering an environment of reading will have on your children. Okay. Um, Everything from literacy scores, language acquisition, success in school, success in life. It's amazing. It really is. Like I said, it's that one kind of magical thing. So, all right. So let's talk about 3 tips for helping your kids become avid readers. Okay. All right. So the number one, I think the most important thing is reading aloud to your kids on a regular basis. Okay. Now, and it's funny because I know people who they're reading aloud to, their early teens, right? That they've made reading this family activity, right? Because the more words a child hears, the better their vocabulary becomes, right? And so, and it's really interesting when you look at language by income, right? The difference in the number of words that a child will hear. And it's funny because I actually have this stat and I didn't write it down. Okay, it's really interesting. So this is from a study by Hart and Risley, Meaningful Differences in the Everyday Experience of Young American Children. They said the average child from a professional family hears 215,000 words per week. A child from a middle-class family hears 125,000 words per week. And a child from a family receiving welfare benefits hears 62,000 words per week. And so if we start to think about, kids being behind, those differences, right? Just right from there. And so, one of the things that you can do, is constantly be talking to your children, talk through your day. And I know some people aren't really comfortable with that. But if you read to your kids and you read things aloud, then that will help them. The more words they hear, the better. But reading aloud really helps. So make that part of your schedule. And so in our house, what we do is there are at least 2 times a day that we read. And typically there's more than that because we've been doing this for so long. But right now, so Eric's 2.5. Right now we read before quiet time in the afternoon. So he has lunch. And then we might do like a quiet activity together, like a puzzle. And then we go upstairs and we read a couple books. And typically we'll read 2 books. And then Eric has either a nap or quiet time. He doesn't nap every day anymore, but he at least has quiet time where he has to go upstairs and he plays with his animals and he has his books that he flips through, which is such a cool thing. Like at the age of 2.5, he has a reading corner downstairs as well. But he'll just sometimes he just kind of needs some time, I think. And he will go and he'll flip through his books and he'll tell himself the story, and it's so cool to watch that. The other time that we read is we read before bed. So as part of our routine in the evening, we'll read usually 2 books. If he's really dragging behind, we'll only read 1. But we've made that part of our day, right? So reading aloud. And it's funny, here's a really interesting story, and this kind of blew my mind. And I don't know, it just could be coincidence, I don't know. But so when I was pregnant, we read, so from my sister-in-law came to see us at Thanksgiving, and when she came, she brought us Little Blue Truck. And so for the next 30 days, we basically read Little Blue Truck every single night to Eric before he was born. And I remember the first night we were home from the hospital, um, I remember Jeff like sitting there, and we're holding Eric, and we read like when we got home from the hospital as part of our routine. And I remember Jeff was sitting with Eric holding him after we had fed him and is reading him Little Blue Truck, and Eric's little face just went, oh, wait, almost like, wait, I know that. Like, I know that. And it was just the coolest thing to like see his little face, like a brand new newborn, almost like, okay, like this is safe. Like I know this part, because that's what we did. Like we read that before we went to sleep. Um, and maybe it was just coincidence. I don't know, but it was just this thing that like he just kind of knew, like, okay, I know where I am now. It's all right, you know. And it's funny, like even to this day, that's still one of his favorite books, Little Blue Truck. And we'll talk about some book recommendations, and we'll have them in the show notes as well. Okay, so the second thing that you want to do is you want to keep books in your home. And I know, like, books can be expensive. Although I think kid books not so much. A lot of the board books are like $5 a piece. You can get them on sale on Amazon. Ask for books for Christmas. I know a lot of people are like, oh, I'm so tired of getting plastic crap, right, for my kids for Christmas. Or I'm tired of all the toys. Have a list of books that you like. Now you're thinking, well, how do I get that list? So you can go to the library and check out books, right? And even now, I know a lot of you can't go to the library, but a lot of libraries are doing curbside pickup. So you can actually call the library and say, hey, listen, my kid is really into this right now. Do you have some books that are age appropriate? And we've done that with Eric. So there's, like Eric has gone through periods, and I think he's still in this period, that he's really into trucks and cars. And so we've gone to the library or called the library and said, hey, my son's 2.5. These are the books he really likes right now, but do you have any books on this topic? And we've done that like for holidays, to get books on holidays or specific things he's interested in the moment. And if there's a book that we really, really like, then we will, we'll add that to his list. So you can have like an Amazon wish list that you can share with family members that have books, and, if there's specific toys that you want to get for your kids. But that's a really good way to acquire books. My sister buys books for my son for like every holiday, and that's like some of his favorite books. We've gotten that way. We have friends that like they buy Eric books, and it's so cool. It's funny because we've had kids later than a lot of our friends, so our friends have kind of like gone through like, oh, these are the books that really work, here you go. So that's pretty neat. Used bookstores are a great place to get kids books. Discount bookstores, like a lot of, I guess pre-COVID, like we had a church around here that would do a book sale, right? Once they start going in, tag sales are a great way to get kids books. Goodwill is a great place to get kids books. Just kind of like think about, for a couple bucks, you can get books for your kids. Library is a great place, to get books. They don't have to be books you buy. What we kind of do is we have some books. And it's funny because like I thought about like, okay, what are the books that Eric really loves? And they're books that we've been reading to him since he was really, really small. Now he has some newer ones he's gotten that he really likes, and I'll add more to the list on the website. I'm going to talk about a couple that have kind of gotten us from birth to this point. And then we can talk about on the show notes at smallbizmama.com. We'll have a whole bunch more. Okay, but so keep books in your home. Okay. and it's really interesting because there are two stats that that I want to share with you. So according to literacy crisis, the only behavior measure that coordinates significantly with reading scores is the number of books in the home. And according to the social stratification and mobility, which is a paper, a research paper, having books in the home is twice as important as the father's education level. So think about just having access to books, right? It is critically important for kids. Okay. And so even going to the library on a regular basis is a great way to do that. Okay. And then the third thing, and this is on you. Okay. This is on you. You need to model the behavior. Okay. So kids need to see you reading. You can't expect your kids to be awesome readers if you don't read. Okay. And I know a lot of you are like, oh, I don't have time to read. I don't know what to read. Okay. So a couple things that we do in our house. So first of all, the library is a great resource again. And so we utilize the library a lot. So one thing that I do is I actually next to my seat on the couch, I have so we got this end table that could actually also be used as like an under the couch table. And at the bottom of that end table, Jeff and I both have a basket. And in that basket, I've got a couple books, I've got a couple magazines. And again, these are all things that you can get from the library. I have like a couple catalogs that come in. So I get the King Arthur Flower catalog, which is really dangerous. And, I get a couple magazines every month. Jeff gets a couple magazines every month. I've got some of my books in there. And I have a couple different types of books. So I have books that I can actually sit down and read, the deep thought kind of books. And then I have some that I can read a couple pages and put them down. So, if you're religious, maybe a short devotional would be good. There are lots of books out there that are, 30-day challenges or things like that. Kind of thinking The Purpose-Driven Life is written like that. The Fly Lady has a book that's, you read one page every day. Jen Sincero, who wrote You Are a Badass, has a book like that. That's like a little one day, once a day kind of thing that you read for motivation. There's lots, a Bible would work, and the thing is, it's in the evening, instead of being on your phone, when you're winding down, read. Read a little bit, flip through a magazine, flip through a book, not an ebook. Okay, I know we like ebooks, okay? Reading comprehension on screens is not as good as a book. Our brain has not yet been able to translate that appropriately. And so, you want to be teaching your kids to read books, okay? Books, paper books, real books. And so, yes, well, the screen is so convenient to pick up the screen, but the problem is our kids can't differentiate what we're doing on the screen. They just know we're on the screens all the time. And so they want to be on the screens all the time. Okay. So I really think it's important for your kids to see you reading and to model the behavior that you want them to have. Okay. All right. So, what are a couple books for little kids that we really like? So I talked about Little Blue Truck, and the links for all of these books are in the show notes. And if you go to smallbizmama.com and buy any of these books through our link, it does help support the show and offset some of the costs we have for producing this show. So I'd invite you, if you're interested in this, or you want to see any other links for the show. And we've got a ton more tips to help you work reading in, to make it more enjoyable for you. I think there's another 20 something tips that'll be in the show notes for this. So you're going to want to go to smallbizmama.com and look for the show notes for episode 18. Okay, so a couple books. So Little Blue Truck, we absolutely love. And the reason that I love Little Blue Truck is because it's about friendship and being nice. Okay. Another one that is really good for that, and I'm going to put this in my notes, so I put it in there. Rainbow Fish is another one that's really good, talking about friendship and being nice. That one's great. We love Goodnight Moon. It's a classic goodnight book. It's interesting because if you've ever done meditation before, especially before sleep, and I don't remember what it's called, I'm sorry. I just kind of thought of this when I was recording. So there's this type of meditation where you relax, you start with your toes, you relax your toes, you say goodnight to your toes, then you relax your feet and you say goodnight to your feet, and you basically work. It's like this whole body relaxation meditation. And it's really interesting because I find that when I do that, I never make it like to the top of my head. It's like I typically fall asleep somewhere around the midsection. But it's just kind of this repetitive thing. And Goodnight Moon is kind of the same premise. It's, you're saying, there's all this stuff in the room, and then we say goodnight to everything in the room. And so it's just a really classic goodnight book. So for letters, we like Chicka Chicka Boom Boom. And tip, so for those of you that are doing Montessori, and you're like, oh, I can't read that because that's the letter names. We do the letter sounds. And so if you've ever read, Chicka Chicka Boom Boom, it's about all the letters going up into a tree, and then they fall out of the tree. And then it's and a coconut tree. And they all fall out of the coconut tree. And then it's about all of them like getting up out of the pile, right? So you actually go through the alphabet twice in this book. And so, the first part of the book, and you can tell I've read this like a gazillion times, A told B and B told C, I'll beat you to the top of the coconut tree. So the way we read it is A told B and B told C, I'll beat you to the top of the coconut tree. And that's how we do it. And we've gone through, and it's interesting because Eric learned all the letters. And then we went, oh no, he needs to know all the sounds. So we started doing all the sounds, and then he just wasn't really picking it up. And then we started reading Chicka Chicka Boom Boom this way. So we probably read Chicka Chicka Boom Boom, maybe 3 times a week. Sometimes more, but maybe 3 times a week. In about 2 weeks, he's picked up all the letter sounds. In fact, last night when we were reading it, he pretty much read the book to me. So it's a really good way for kids to learn their letters or learn their sounds, however you want to read it. You can adapt it either way. And then the last one that I like is This Little Piggy. And it's a counting book. So it's like one little piggy does this, 2 little piggies do this. I know it's like 4 little piggies like to knit, which is what got me, because I like to knit. And it's really cute, and it goes up to 10, and it helps kids, you can count with them through the pages. And so that's a really fun little book. So the first 3 we've had since Eric was born. And then This Little Piggy we got probably about, I don't know, maybe 9 months ago, and he likes it so much he actually got sick on one copy, and we bought him another one. And he likes that book. It's a really good car book too, This Little Piggy. So all right, so I know this episode is a little bit longer than some of the other ones we've done, but I think reading is so critically important for our kids. So make sure that you go check out the show notes, because I said there's a ton more information on the website about choosing books, ways to make reading more interesting, ways not to overwhelm your kids, just a ton more things on there. And so go check out the show notes, go check out some of our recommendations. And I'm going to be adding more to this list. I'm actually going to go through some of Eric's books and add some more books to the list, his favorites. But you don't need a ton of books. I mean, honestly, it's funny because we have so many books, it's crazy. We probably have maybe 40 books, but honestly, I think there are like 7 that he just really, really loves. And some of those books we've gotten on clearance. Some of them we've gotten for holidays. Some of them we bought at book sales. So I'll put some more on this list, and I'm actually thinking of more right now and typing while I'm recording. But I'll make sure that we get a really good list together for you. But feel free to, let us know if you have any questions. What are some books that your kids love? Because we're always looking for more, kind of classics to add to the collection. All right, mamas, you have an awesome week. Thank you so much for joining us on this podcast. Look, if you like the podcast, please leave us a review wherever you're listening. It really helps other moms find the show. And I will see you next week. Love you, mamas. Take care.
Thank you for listening to Small Biz Mama with Kristen Ingram. If you'd like to learn how to create more margin in your life, please visit us at smallbizmama.com. That's smallbizmama.com.